Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. What I'm going to do here is break down the Thursday night Showdown slate. I think there's $250,000 to first place once again. Crazy these prize pool for Showdown. Crazy that one guy took it down on Monday night, the two-game slate, $250K with a very nice lineup. He just left money on the table, which I've been pushing for so long, especially in one-game Showdowns, not even just two-game slates. But very excited. Let's get into this. Before we do, welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Sal Vetri. There's a very good chance this is your first time seeing me. I'm getting a lot of attraction this NFL season. Been doing this for about 11 months. We started it last NFL season, just breaking down into the slates, Showdown slate here, breaking down into different sports, NFL here. I do MLB, WNBA, NBA as well. Appreciate it. Down below, I have exclusive content on Patreon if you're interested. I have a lot of things there. You can check it out. More content, probably putting in about 20 to 25 hours a week on Patreon content alone, if not more. You can follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. Have an NFL Daily Fantasy course also linked down below. All the plugs are out of the way. Last thing is subscribe. Hit the subscribe button. We're getting close to 10,000 subscribers. We'll probably get to 8,000 subscribers by the time you're seeing this. I'm projecting for 10,000 by the end of September. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it. This is literally a dream getting to do this full time, at least for now. Hopefully YouTube, knock on wood, does not fall apart or shut down tomorrow. Jose Cola, thank you so much for subscribing to the channel. You just made the actual recording of this video. Popped up on my email. So let's break down into it. I'll give you my interests. I'll give you the guys that I'm somewhat interested, and then I'll give you the guys that I don't have interest in if there's any reason to chat about them. Starting it off, highest price guy by all means should be Christian McCaffrey. Look, a lot of the times last year I was fading some running backs that were in the 80 to 90% owned range. We had Leonard Fournette being that highly owned against the Titans one night, the night that I think Derrick Henry just went obliterated for those 3 touchdowns, the really long stiff arm run that went viral. We had Saquon Barkley, Zeke. These guys were 80 to 90% owned, and for good reason, but they didn't end up in the winning lineup because they either had a bad game or they just weren't needed. And when a guy is 80 to 90% owned, and you don't play him in 2 or 3 of your lineups and you're leveraging the field just by doing that, or you don't play him in your one lineup that you play, and he's not needed in the winning lineup because he doesn't score 20 points, he only scores 12 or 13, and has an average game, you knocked out so much of the field in terms of your chances of winning. However, that's not the case with Christian McCaffrey against the Bucs. It's just not the case at all. There's no way that I'm fading Christian McCaffrey. Look, I really like to do it in certain situations. Last year, Saquon had a really tough matchup on Monday Night Football, I believe. I did it there. Leonard Fournette against the Titans. Everybody was overhyped about it because there was really no good offensive weapons, so they figure get the guy who's going to get the 3-down work. It made a ton of sense just because of opportunity. But right here, you don't get away from Christian McCaffrey, in my opinion. The guy's just an absolute monster. He's a threat for 100 receiving yards and 100 rushing yards, both every single game. He did it in week 1, just absolutely monster in terms of 200 total yards. He's just so fantastic. I love this guy. I love watching him. There was talk that he might come off of the field for red zone work in the preseason. He played 100% of the snaps week 1. 100% of the snaps. He led all running backs with 5 explosive runs. What that means is that when you have 10 or more yards on a carry, he had 5 of them. Ridiculous. He was second, I believe, or third. He was tied for third in terms of having 4 red zone carries. So he got all the goal line work. They were full of crap on that. He got 100% of the snaps. The man never came off the field on offense. So 12-4, a deserving price point. By far he's in play. By far he's going to see himself have 20-plus touches when you factor in, or 20-plus touches if you factor in his receiving and ground game, if not more. And this Tampa Bay matchup sets up just so beautifully for him. Yes, Christian McCaffrey is by far chalk. By far, to me, is a lock. Cam Newton and Jameis, you have to have interest in both of them. They both did not have the greatest performances week 1. Jameis Winston, 3 interceptions, 2 pick sixes. Cam Newton couldn't hit his receivers. He was so inaccurate. The issues about his shoulder, people who are on the train of Cam Newton can't throw the ball deep. He did not look good. He was not accurate. I personally love both of these quarterbacks, in my opinion. I think they both clearly have downsides. Obviously, Jameis with the interceptions and turnovers. But week 1 to week 2 are the biggest improvements. Everybody overreacts to week 1 so much compared to any other week because you've been waiting for football for so long. So whatever happens week 1, you just automatically believe that player is that player. So clear that out of your mind. It's a new week. Carolina's defense did very well against Jared Goff overall. On the ground, the Rams had success last week against Carolina's defense, which we'll get to that. But overall in the air, they did limit Jared Goff and that receiving game pretty well. I do have interest, though, in Jameis and Cam Newton. Here's the thing. Just play one quarterback. A quarterback is needed about 80% of the time to knock down a GPP. You rarely need both of them. And in the captain spot, it's about 75 to 80% of the time a running back or wide receiver is needed. It makes sense. It's very hard for a quarterback to be the captain unless they have rushing upside. Cam Newton has rushing upside, but they want him to be more of a pocket passer this year. So I don't have interest there. Jameis Winston has rushing upside. He came in second last week, only behind Josh Allen's 10 rushing attempts. Jameis Winston had 5 rushing attempts last week. So both of them are in play. They're both clearly very expensive. I would just pick one of them. I probably lean Jameis for lower ownership, and overall the rushing upside I think is higher for him. Chris Godwin was the best Bucs wide receiver. He led the team in targets with 6. The targets were pretty evenly distributed across the way. You had Mike Evans dealing with an injury. I believe he's still dealing with this injury, even though they're kind of downplaying it. He had 5 targets, caught 2 for 28 yards. Godwin got in the end zone, actually. He's going to run in the slot a ton. Wide receivers in the slot is just a fantastic spot. He's not going to leave the field, Chris Godwin. He's a very good play, and honestly, he's very cheap at $8,600. DJ Moore, lots of talk about Curtis Samuel in the preseason. The hype train grew a lot, and last year, Curtis Samuel had 1 less target in the second half of the year than DJ Moore. But his targets were all over the place. He would have 4 targets, 11, 4, 13, like things like that. It was never consistent like DJ Moore's. DJ Moore saw 10 targets in week 1, second only behind Christian McCaffrey's 11 targets from Cam Newton. Again, McCaffrey is a goddamn lock on this slate, in my opinion. DJ Moore would be my next interest in terms of the passing game and overall offense of Carolina. Look, Curtis Samuel is good for GPPs. Like, he either is going to get you 4 targets or he's going to get you 11 targets, and a lot of his targets are going to be down the field. He had one of the highest ADOTs, average depth of target, last year, which for people who were playing him in cash last week, I made it very known on Patreon. I made it very known on YouTube later in the week and on Awesomo's channel not to be doing that. This is a guy who's not safety, right? He's not reliable in terms of his targets per game. The hype in the preseason, sure, he looked great. Sure, he might be on the field for all the snaps with DJ Moore because they really don't have any other wide receivers, but don't let that overhype you. So Curtis Samuel, he's okay. Like, he's a maybe for me, but I definitely prefer Christian McCaffrey even at his price point. I definitely prefer DJ Moore even at his price point. O.J. Howard, he also saw 5 targets. He was solid. 4 catches, 32 yards for a tight end relative to a lot of other tight ends, relative to his hype. Burnt a lot of people. But once again, Greg Olsen's dealing with an injury. So if you're looking at a tight end, O.J. Howard makes sense at $6,600. I much prefer O.J. Howard to Greg Olsen, even if Olsen is healthy. To talk about Olsen quickly, he actually ran a route on 93% of Cam Newton's dropbacks week 1. That's absolutely fantastic, but he's questionable, so keep an eye on him. At $6,200, I would rather pay $400 more for O.J. Howard, who, in my opinion, both these offenses have a lot of mouths to feed. Christian McCaffrey will be the number 1 target for Cam Newton. Then it's going to be DJ Moore, and then it's going to be split between a Greg Olsen and a Curtis Samuel, whereas on the Tampa Bay side, you're going to be getting Mike Evans once he starts to get healthy. Either way, he's seeing targets. Chris Godwin, and then O.J. Howard. There's not that same running back threat in terms of the pass-catching game as there is with Christian McCaffrey to take away double-digit targets. Panthers' defense is fine at $4,200. It might be a little bit overpriced, but again, Jameis threw 2 pick-sixes, 3 interceptions last week. The offensive line for the Bucs is not that great. So the Panthers, it seems okay to be getting there. Here's my favorite play on the slate. $2,400 is ridiculous. I don't know if Draftkings isn't paying attention or what. $2,400 Daro Ogunbowale. You probably never heard his name. He led the Bucs in snaps. He was fantastic in the preseason and camp. He made this team because he can catch the ball. They have him on the field a lot because he can catch the ball. Look, there's going to be talk about Ronald Jones going for 75 yards on the ground on 13 carries compared to the 8 carries that he got out of Peyton Barber for 33 yards. I don't care about that. $2,400 Dar Ogunbowale. He had 5 targets, second highest on the team, tied on the second highest on the team with Evans and O.J. Howard, and he caught 4 of them for 33 yards. And he's also a running back. So the more and more that he plays, and again, he led the running backs, he had more snaps overall than Ronald Jones. He had more snaps overall than Peyton Barber. The more time he's on the field, the more he's going to get rushing attempts as well. Give me $2,400 Dar Ogunbowale when a lot of the public is not going to play him. This price tag is easily $1,000 to $1,500 too low. Look, I get it. You had a lot of touches for Ronald Jones on the ground at 13, but he didn't do much in the receiving game. And Ronald Jones this week is $5,000, more than double the price point of Dar Ogunbowale. And he saw less snaps in the same exact backfield. Ogunbowale is going to be on the field in any passing down situation on third downs, and probably more than that. They like this kid a lot. They kept him on the roster for a reason. Dar Ogunbowale is by far the best point per dollar play on this slate. Not the highest upside, no. For his price tag, what you get out of that value is by far the best. He led all the running backs on this team, I believe, with 26 snaps. So yeah, those are my main interests. My main interests are McCaffrey, Cam Newton, Winston, Godwin, DJ Moore, Howard, Olsen, Panthers D, Ogunbowale. And then the guys who stand out as yes, you can play them. We talked about Curtis Samuel. Yes, you can play him. He's probably the 3rd or 4th option on this team. McCaffrey, DJ Moore, 1 and 2. Samuel probably ahead of Greg Olsen. If Greg Olsen is out, by all means, you can get more of Curtis Samuel. If Greg Olsen is out, $3,800 Ian Thomas becomes an interesting play as a guy who can catch the ball, who did fine in the preseason, who did fine last year in place of Greg Olsen for some games. But overall, I would rather get to Dar Ogunbowale for cheaper in that instance over Ian Thomas. So I probably don't get the Thomas either way. Rashad Perriman had a good week last week. He also saw 5 targets. So I said the distribution was spread out so much on Jameis Winston's passing attempts. I mean, Chris Godwin led the team with 6 targets, and you had Mike Evans, you had Darrell Ogunbowale, you had Perriman, and you had O.J. Howard. All those guys saw 5 targets each as well. So it was very spread out. Perriman didn't really do much, though. 2 catches on 10 targets. He benefited in terms of snaps and looks because of Mike Evans' injury. He's a guy who's a kind of flyer play, right? He's a GPP only. Can you get him on the outside for a deep touchdown? And then the Bucs defense and kickers. You always have to factor in defenses and kickers. I'm not breaking down into, does this kicker kick 2 field goals? Look, it's as simple as it gets. If they get 6 or 7 points, that's what's like kind of better than average. 5 to 6 is around average. You need from a kicker in this game, in my opinion, the game to stay low scoring and the kicker to get you like 10 to 15 points. It doesn't happen often. I don't put kickers in there often. I think it's very cute most of the time. I think you can do it because you can fit in other players. But on a slate like this, give me Darrell Ogunbowale, who's $800 cheaper than the Tampa Bay kicker, who's $1,000 cheaper than the Carolina kicker, and what you're getting out of him is more upside, in my opinion. His 4 catches for 33 yards alone in the receiving game were 7.3 points. That's $1,000 cheaper than the kickers, and would have outscored most kickers last week. So, that's my interest right now. Darrell Ogunbowale is by far the best value on the slate. You probably don't hear a lot of people talk about him because nobody grinded the preseason for the most part. He is by far the guy who led the team in snaps. Not by far, but he led the team in snaps, and he's the favorite overall, in my opinion, to take this overall running back job, starting gig and everything, away from Ronald Jones, away from Peyton Barber, who haven't shown much to do anything. And in an offense that wants to throw the ball and stay wide, a guy like Ogunbowale, who as sure-handed as he is, makes a lot of sense. So McCaffrey's almost a lock for me. Ogunbowale is the best value on the slate. In the middle range, I think Chris Godwin is way too cheap. DJ Moore is way too cheap. O.J. Howard's way too cheap. And then pick your quarterback that you like. Make sure your lineup correlates. If you're putting a wide receiver from one team into your lineup, so say you have wide receiver DJ Moore in your captain spot, you better have wide receivers and Jameis Winston also in that lineup, because what you're saying then is that DJ Moore is going to score a lot, which probably means that the opposing team is going to have to catch up as well. So just make sure that things make sense in terms of game flow. My name's Sal. You can follow me on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. If you had any value from this video, please hit the subscribe button. I really appreciate that. I'll be live Thursday at 6 o'clock, 2 hours before the game locks. I'll be live for about 45 minutes. We had about 400 people for the Monday night stream. Let's see if we could break that, get to 500 people for a Thursday night football stream before lock. Thank you all so much. We're about to hit the 8,000 subscriber mark. You all rock. Check out my Patreon content. Check out the free strategy guides down below. My name's Sal. You already know that. Peace out, gang.
Hey, hold up. 1 second. Check out this page. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, all right? And if you're interested in Patreon, if you're not already a Patreon, you can hit that button on Patreon, become a Patreon. It will take you right there. You can also check me out on Twitter at SalVetriDFS. And hey, if you're interested, this next video that's about to pop up, why don't you check it out as well. See ya.